There's also pricing based on geography in the distribution channel. FOB pricing means freight on board or free on board, and it usually has a destination associated with it. So if two companies are selling a product, and let's say I'm selling mine with FOB, let's say we're both located in Halifax, and we have a customer in Winnipeg. If I sell my product FOB Halifax, that means that the customer has to pay the shipping from Halifax to Winnipeg. If you sell your product FOB Winnipeg, that means you're going to pay the shipping to Winnipeg, and the customer in essence gets it for free. So that, or at least free from shipping. So that lowers the cost. So the shipping, because it's usually a fairly significant component, can make an impact on the pricing of the product. Uniform delivered pricing is sort of like what happens when we send a postage stamp. Even though the cost of sending a product or sending a letter from, say, Halifax or Nova Scotia to New Brunswick, is it may not be 50 cents. It may be only 25 cents, and the cost to send that letter from Halifax to Vancouver may be 75 cents. But there's a uniform delivered pricing. It's one price no matter whether you send it across the street or across the country. And finally, zone pricing is sort of similar in that if we have to ship our product within the Maritimes, there may be one price. If we have to ship it from the Maritimes to Ontario, there may be another price, and then another price if it's from the Maritimes to Western Canada. So there are different sort of zones. And again, because shipping is usually a sort of a component of doing business, it is, and it must be built into the cost. Depending on the geographical pricing structure, that will affect the pricing. Now, there are some allowances that happen within the distribution channel as well. Advertising allowances, this is where a company will give a price reduction, and that money is used for advertising or support. The example I think of here is Highliner Foods. When they go to a grocery store, for every case that the grocery store buys, Highliner Foods takes $1 out, or some amount, and puts it in a little fund that is then used for advertising or sales promotion or some sort of display. Stocking or slotting allowances is money paid by manufacturers, particularly to retailers, to get their products stocked in the warehouse and get some shelf space put in. So that's a way of sort of, in essence, it kind of reduces the price of the product. Push money is money that is given to salespeople to aggressively promote the product. So in Future Shop, you may go in and there may be some salespeople that are, kind of promoting a Sony television as the main brand when you walk in. That may be because they have a little bit of push money that's been paid to them, and so they're pushing that brand first. Trade-in allowances are sort of what we typically think of when we trade in a car. We bring back some old product or some out of date or out of stock product, and there's some allowances given for that, and rebates and coupons. Sort of self-explanatory. Finally, some legal aspects of pricing and some things that you might want to think about. First of all, misleading pricing. If a company has a product that they're advertising to be on sale, okay, and so they're saying 50% off, well, they would have had to have sold that product at the 100% level for several weeks or a reasonable period of time. So they can't get a new product in, and the manufacturer's suggested price is, say, $100, and now they're going to sell it for $50 and say 50% off. If they've never sold it at that $100 mark, then they can't advertise it 50% off. And the manufacturer's suggested retail price is just that. It's a suggested price. It's not, they cannot require the retailer to sell it. And so even though you might have a positioning and a price associated of, say, a high price or quality, if a retailer wants to sell it at a lower price, they can do so. Double ticketing is if there are two prices on a product, the retailer must sell it to you at the lowest price. So if you find that it's $9.99, you take it up to the cash register and they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, it was $9.99 last week. We meant to take that sticker off. It's now $10.99. I'm sorry, it's double ticketed. You have to sell it to me at the lower price." Bait and switch is a technique that is sometimes used where a company will advertise a very low-priced product And when you go in the store, they either try to discourage you from buying it, or they say they don't have enough, and they try to switch you up to a more expensive product. So they say, for example, that we're selling televisions for $2.99, and you go in to buy a $2.99 television, and they say, oh, well, you know, they're in the back, or, you know, they're hard to get, you know, how about this one for $5.99? And they try to bait you in with a low price product and switch you up. If they're going to have limited quantities, then they must put limited quantities on the advertisement, or while quantities last. The whole idea of baiting you in with a low price product and then not wanting to sell it to you, or really preventing you from buying it and trying to switch you up to a more expensive product is against the law. And finally, price fixing. Companies cannot get together and decide on a price for a product that everyone's going to sell. Now, sometimes there's informal sort of price setting, and I guess to some extent it's pretty close to price fixing, but it's awfully hard to prove. But you know, companies just cannot agree that they're going to sell, you know, the same product for the same price. It's just it's against the law. It's called collusion. So what we've talked about are the internal and external factors that affect price, and we use that example of Bill Ball and some of the different factors that go into price setting. And then we looked at ways that companies adjust prices to the consumer, as well as adjusting prices to the trade. So we talked about allowances and discounts and that sort of thing.